Hi everybody, Terry Ryder from Hotspotting, and this is my regular weekly feature every Tuesday, Hotspot of the Week. Today I'm going to focus on a particular regional centre in Queensland because tomorrow I'm going to be there speaking about that place at a business breakfast event. And it's a good study because it's indicative of some of the things that happen in markets and why markets are worthy of attention by property investors. Both because of what's happening locally and, in this case, what's happening at the larger centre just down the road. So where I'm heading this afternoon for the event tomorrow morning is the small regional city of Gympie in regional Queensland, and it's an interesting place, and it's got things happening in its economy and bigger things happening in larger centres nearby, which is why we are interested in this particular location at Hotspotting and why we have featured it recently in some of our reports, such as top 5 regional Queensland hotspots, and also the national top 5 Gympies with prospects regional edition. So Gympie is a quite a substantial and solid small city in its own right, and it's also benefiting from its proximity to the Sunshine Coast, which is one of the strongest evolution economies anywhere in Australia right now. So in terms of why Gympie, why would you be interested in it? Firstly, it's what's happening in the town itself, but also its proximity to the rising Sunshine Coast economy and the improved, greatly upgraded highway links between the two locations. So Gympie is a small regional city, admin centre for the Wide Bay Burnett region of Queensland, which is an important region for a number of reasons, including agriculture, tourism, and others. The recent upgrades to the Bruce Highway, which are ongoing, it's a 4-stage thing, 3 stages completed, another one's still happening. A project of well over $1 billion. It's in terms of commuting distance, brought Gympie closer to the Sunshine Coast, and because Gympie house prices are so much lower than those on the Sunshine Coast, it's become targeted by both home buyers and investors. Sometimes younger buyers who maybe have jobs on the Sunshine Coast but can't afford Sunshine Coast prices are buying in Gympie and commuting to the jobs there. So yeah, it's the economic heart, admin centre for the Gympie local government area, regional council area, which includes the Great Sandy National Park, Tin Can Bay, Rainbow Beach. So while Gympie itself is inland on the Mary River, it's close to the coast and has some notable coastal areas that attract tourists, etc. So tourism is important. It's also on the Bruce Highway, the main highway connecting both south to Brisbane and north to other places. And it's also on the main northern rail link, so there are train services daily to Brisbane. It's got some important local industry going on. There's a Nestle coffee factory, there's a major meatworks, there are large timber processing facilities. Because of its history with gold mining, there is that's part of the tourism offer for Gympie, which includes the Gympie and District Historical and Mining Museum. There's also a Woodworks, Forestry and Timber Museum. It's noted for a couple of major music type events that happen every year, the Country Music Muster in August and the Gold Rush Festival in October. The Country Music Muster in particular is a very big event over 4 days. It typically attracts 10 or 15,000 people. So it's got all the infrastructure that you would want in a large town, small city, educational facilities, medical facilities, hospital, etc., sports facilities. It's about 160 k's north of Brisbane, so it's within striking distance of Brisbane. It's sort of place where it can attract business because it's close enough to the capital city to matter. It's also very closer to the Sunshine Coast, which is about probably 40-45 minutes drive to the downtown Sunshine Coast. But the land there is cheaper, and some businesses like to set up there for that reason. So the property market's interesting, and the first thing that's interesting about it is the prices. It's very affordable on the Sunshine Coast, which has been for the last year or so the strongest market anywhere in Queensland, in our estimation. There's big infrastructure spend happening on the Sunshine Coast. It's an evolution economy. It's growing strongly. A new medical precinct's been created. The airport's been upgraded to international status. All sorts of things are happening. It's over $20 billion worth of investment, and it's created a rising property market, particularly the upper end, Noosa and other parts. The top end of the Sunshine Coast market have risen very strongly in the last 1 to 2 years. And so prices on the Sunshine Coast are relatively high. Some of the cheaper markets, like say Nambour, median house price $400,000. So for people who don't want to pay that much or can't afford it, Gympie just up the road is an attractive alternative. In the town of Gympie itself, the median house price is $260,000. Monkland, which is a suburb that's part of the Gympie metro area, I guess, $255,000. South side is a little bit more expensive, mid 300,000s, and then some of those coastal areas like Tin Bay are up in median prices above 300,000, but still very, very affordable. And some of those places have pretty good growth. In the last 12 months, median prices have grown 11%, south side, Tin Bay 9%. Rental yields are attractive too. For Gympie, median rental yield is 6%. Monkland, I mentioned earlier, which is part of the Gympie market, it's just a fraction under 6%. Vacancies are very low, 1.5%. So it has all the parameters to attract the interest of both home buyers and investors because affordable, good rental yield, vacancy low, supporting those strong rental yields. The economy has got lots of different things happening and some big things ongoing and coming up in Gympie itself, as well as everything that's happening down the road in the Sunshine Coast. And it's the proximity to the Sunshine Coast that's one of the big factors that would make anyone interested in investing in Gympie. But the Bruce Highway upgrade, it's a $1.7 billion project being carried out in 4 sections, of which 3 have been completed, and the final section is currently ongoing. And the local market is seeing impact from that in terms of heightened levels of construction of new housing, increased land values, etc. Population is growing. The other big project that's on the books there is the Lower Wonga solar farm, a particularly big one. It's allegedly a $2 billion project that's been proposed, and according to our research, it has been approved. And if it goes ahead, they're estimating about 450 local construction jobs. So that's going to have a big impact if and when it happens. Other things are happening that I mentioned, the meatworks that's expanding. So there's plenty happening in Gympie itself to generate economy and jobs and demand for real estate. But then there's also that factor of its links improved by the highway upgrade to the Sunshine Coast, which is one of the boom regional economies anywhere in Australia. So Gympie, our hotspot of the week, worthy of attention for its affordability and everything else that I've mentioned. So now I'm going to jump in the car and head up there to overnight there and get ready to do a presentation to the Gympie Chamber of Commerce early tomorrow morning and talk to them about the potential that I see in this regional city, its economy and its property market to move forward. Okay, that's it for now. Let's do it again, same time next week. And don't forget to tune in for other features that occur in the week. On Thursday, as usual, I'll be doing my regular war on misinformation, which is highly likely to have a bit of a federal election tinge to it, similar to some of my broadcasts earlier in the week. Bye for now. Let's do it again soon.